Hi people, my name is Shannon and I am a person on the internet that talks about books. So let's talk about books. I am so aware that I am ridiculously behind on this. I mean, I'm behind on all videos. Yeah, that's another thing, but I was probably supposed to film this video at least 2 months ago. Now we are in the middle of September and I am just now filming for you guys my 5 top books from the first half of the year. So I'm going to be looking at books that I read between January and I guess mid-June, around the halfway point of the year. And I'm going to share with you 5 of my favorite books. I will say this, I don't feel like I've read a lot of amazing books the first half of the year. Some of the books that I've read very recently I love and would love to talk about, include, but I am only going to talk about books that I read during the first half of the year. But that being said, I'm going to share with you what I have read, give you a little bit of a summary of the story, and my ultimate rating. So let's talk about books! So the first book that I'm going to talk to you about was a book that I read back in January, and that is We Are Okay by Nina Lacour, and I gave this a 5-star rating. It was really good for the time of year that I read it, and I read it in cold, horrible January, and this is a really good book for cold, kind of chilly, isolated weather. This is very easily read in one sitting, which I'm pretty sure I did. If maybe 2 big sittings. I think I was at work when I read this thing, so yeah. So this book is a YA book. It is about a girl whose grandfather passed away and she's away at college for the first time, and her experience over break, because she's allowed to stay at school for break, and her one of her best friends comes in and sees her. There's a lot of themes of isolation and loss and grief. It is slower paced, so if you don't really like a slow paced book, you're probably not going to like it, but I thought it was perfect. It fit the atmosphere of the book, which was like cold, snowy, dead of winter, break, I'm all alone at school. So that worked really, really well. It's really contemplative. It's just kind of a really nice book to read when you have a couple hours to kill and you're in a snowstorm, as I tell you this in September. The next book that I'm going to talk to you about is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I read this in February. I gave this a 5-star. This is a book that is, it's more serious, somber, kind of hard to read, gut-wrenching. It feels in themes a lot like Push by Sapphire. Solid plot, some good twists and turns. I don't really want to give too much of the story away, except that to tell you that it's about a teenage girl named Mary who was in juvenile detention for a bunch of years because she had allegedly killed a baby who was in her care. And so the story just sort of talks about her relationship with her mom, what happened, what didn't happen, and it's kind of for the reader to decide the truth. Next book I'm going to talk to you about is not a new book. I read it in March, Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and I gave this 5 stars. I was really late to the party on reading this book. I really didn't have much interest in reading it until my good friend wanted to go see the movie, and I said, okay, well, I have to read the book. And I'm pretty sure I read this thing in almost one sitting. I read it in one day. I had a smile on my face the entire time. I loved it, and I loved it so much because the friend group in this book is just like, that was my friend group growing up. That, you know, they were theater kids, music kids, kind of the geeks of school, but kind of, you know, cool, and you know, their parties that they go to consist of you know, going to someone's house, hanging out in their basement and blasting songs and watching movies. Like, that would be the party that they go to. You know, they're not really going to like the parties that are so poorly depicted in like movies and stuff. The characters were so compelling. I loved Simon. I thought that the kids were just written so well. And then I saw the movie like 2 days after I read the book, and I thought it did a pretty good job too. So this is a really, really cool read. It's actually funny. The first 3 of these books are YA books. And I don't read a lot of YA, so I've been surprised pleasantly with YA. Next book is a book that I also read in February, and it is Difficult Women by Roxane Gay. I read most of this on a flight. This was just so cool. This is totally a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a collection of short stories written by Roxane Gay, all talking about difficult women in different capacities, difficult in different ways from one another. The stories are so unique, so dark and but funny and thought-provoking and surreal. You know, some of them are kind of set in our reality and some of them aren't. The writing is very like haunting, kind of ethereal, but really like, I don't know, it's really good like feminist discussion, you know, who these women are, what makes them difficult, how their circumstances impact their character, and vice versa. It's just a really, really, really cool book, and it's something that I feel like I could read multiple times and kind of get different things from it each time. And the last book is also a book that I read in February. February was a really good reading month for me. I read a lot of 5-star books. And it's The Shining by Stephen King. I have not read this up until this year. I read it this February and I gave it 5. I am so proud of myself because there was a couple like staple Stephen King books that I had never read, and The Shining was one of them, and I was always so ashamed of the fact. So I finally have read it. I love it. It was a really cool time for me to read this because it really got me thinking a lot of the film and versus the book. I know for some reason the camp is so divided. Either, you know, you love the book and hate the movie and vice versa because it's so well known that Stephen King hates the movie. But I love both. I love the movie and the book, and I think that they can both exist. You don't have to, I don't know why we have the idea that you have to hate one in order to love the other just because they're different. They're separate things. And that's okay. There's a lot of differences for sure from the film. Movie Wendy is way more exciting. No, sorry. Movie Jack is less complex than Book Jack, and Book Wendy is way more interesting. And I guess sympathetic than film Wendy. There's different themes here. There's themes of alcoholism throughout this book, and that's not really seen in the movie. You know, I could go on, but I'm not going to. The whole point is just to introduce to you the books that I read that I loved. So I loved The Shining. This was definitely a 5-star, and I am so proud that I have finally read it. Alright, there you have it, folks. My top 5 favorite books from the first half of the year. I will be doing another one of these probably January, which is right around the corner, recapping my 5 top books from the second half of the year. I already have at least 1 or 2 books that I know that I'm going to put in that video because I have read some really good books lately. So I'm curious to know today's video. I want to know up until June, so the first 6 months of the year, what is the favorite book that you've read? What is your favorite book from the first half of the year? I'm curious because I have kind of hit, I wouldn't say a reading slump, but I've just sort of, I haven't been really inspired to pick up books lately. I'm reading normally, but I haven't been excited. So I'm curious if anything that you recommend is maybe in my to-be-read shelf, or if I've never heard of it. It'll kind of, I feel like, help me branch out and read some more stuff. Okay, I don't have the air conditioning on because you can hear it in the camera, and so I'm very hot. I gotta go turn it on. I'll see you guys later. Whew! It is too hot. It's September and it's too hot. I gotta go. Bye, guys.